New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is one of the most straightforward Mario games out of the bunch. With its colourful aesthetic, funny power-ups, and those adorable baby Yoshis, you would think the game would be a breeze. But if you've 100%ed the game, you would agree that there are some enraging levels, which is what we are looking at in today's video. We're Corner Talk and here are our top 10 hardest levels in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. But quickly, comment down below what we should do for our 2-year anniversary on YouTube coming up in a couple of weeks. If we like your idea, we'll give it a heart and shout you out. Let's go! Coming in at number 10, we have Fire Snake Cavern. What makes this course difficult isn't any obstacle in particular, but actually how dark the stage is. Now thankfully, there are some yellow baby Yoshis which can be used as a lamp, but they are incredibly hard to handle as you can't use your ice flower. Throughout the level, you'll come across fire snakes, fire bros, and moving seesaws. The fire snakes and bros are super annoying to come across as half the time you won't even see them coming. Not to mention that the fire snakes has the ability to grow in size. Another annoying aspect comes from the second star in the level. To access the pipe that leads to said star, you will need a break box attached to the seesaw. The seesaw however never stops moving, so you have to make your ground pounds really precise. Luckily, you get access to power-ups and even a red ring in the level, so that prevents me from putting this course any higher up. However, I would still recommend taking the other path leading to the tower. Coming in at number 9, we have Slide Lift Tower. This was a course I never knew was that hard until I played it again, and now I think this level is 100% worthy of this list. Throughout the level, I kept on getting squished by those lifts, and whenever I managed to get my hand on an acorn, a firebird managed to hit me with a fireball from out of nowhere. It's so hard to reach certain sections of the tower, even sections where I'm intended to go. This is due to those stupid lifts that are so hard to get on top of due to it moving up and down so quickly. If you can't tell, me and the lifts aren't the greatest of friends. It doesn't help that the second star requires the acorn suit, which is hard to hang on to, and those lifts which are difficult to get on even with the acorn suit. The third star is by far one of the more scariest stars to obtain in the game. I cannot tell you how many times I got squashed by those stupid lifts, not to mention that there are like 15 in one small room. Besides the stupid lifts though, there is nothing else that I'm raging about the course besides the fire bros. I feel as though I'm the only person who sucks at this course. Let me know in the comments if this level is easy for you. Coming in at number 8, we have Shifting Floor Cave. Now this level isn't dark like Fire Snake Cavern, but it's just as hard due to the shifting floors moving up, down, left and right. If you miss the timing for one jump, you probably won't survive as the floor won't be there. The obstacles in the course aren't the biggest threat, ranging from a few bats and Koopa Troopas, and you can find a few power-ups along the way, but ultimately what puts this on the list is the third star. You have to find a Koopa Troopa, step on its head, grab its shell, run all the way to the exit pipe without encountering any enemies, and you have to be quick or else the Koopa will pop out of its shell. Once you're standing on the final shifting floor, you have to perfectly time your shell throw to hit the star. This throw is harder than it looks, and if you make one mistake you have to die and restart from the checkpoint. Overall, this level is torture. We're back at Rock Candy Mines, and here we have Thrilling Spine Coaster. Keeping your balance on a moving coaster is hard as it is, let alone when there's poison underneath you and it's darker than Fire Snake Cavern. Obtaining power-ups in this course is incredibly difficult as you're never going to be standing still, but the poison is a one-hit death as it is, so it wouldn't make a difference. What does make a difference is the bats that come out of the dark, so you have to make sure you're looking everywhere. The first star coin isn't that difficult to obtain, but it's the second and third star that has me ripping out my hair. At one point the coaster is moving so fast you barely have time to jump for the second star, and the dark covers the area until the final possible seconds. The final star requires you to grab the star from the question box, and you have to be quick otherwise the coaster will be gone. Once doing so, you have to ride the coaster, which is practically jumping up and down out of the poison, and once at the end pipe you have to hit the question block to obtain another star, which can only be grabbed if the first star is still active. If you're lucky enough to grab the second star, you have to dash into the pipe and dash through a dozen munches to get the star and back before your invincibility runs out. What makes this course even harder is that there are no checkpoints, so you have to perfect everything or else you'll be sent back to the beginning. This level was so hard to complete and I'm glad I never had to do it again. Coming in at number 6, we have Haunted Shipwreck. This level is split into 3 sections, and each of which is annoying for its own reasons. The first section is full of fake question blocks that rain down on you, and they literally have aimbot. Even if you're running, they will somehow still hit you. You also have to make your way up onto a giant rotating block, and once the block makes its way to the right, you have to perfect a jump to fall in one of those invisible walls which contains the first star. The second section is underwater, and features circle buoys that expand and shrink every few seconds. You have to go through them to proceed, and it's made even more difficult due to the fish bones. Towards the end of the section, you have to avoid a fake question box, a dozen buoys, and 4 fish bones which can really get tight, especially if you have no power up. The last section is a giant maze full of those invisible walls, and even though there's no enemies, you practically have to jump out every wall to try to find the star, as well as the secret exit. Even the door leading to the end is a trick. I guess attempting these sections individually isn't a problem, but doing it all together gets very messy and difficult, especially since there are no checkpoints. What prevents me from putting it higher on the list is the fact that there are quite a few power-ups, but it doesn't change the fact that it's one of the more harder levels in the game. Coming in at number 5, we have Flight of the Parabeetles. Many people might agree that this is the hardest level in the game, but we've gotten better at it over time. It still doesn't change the fact that it's one of the most difficult courses to complete. The most annoying aspect in this level is of course the auto scroll. The Parabeetles you have to step and move so slowly, so you literally have to be ahead of the screen at all times to progress. Since the auto scroll moves up, you have to be cautious of the small Parabeetles which lift you up, as staying on them for too long will result in you being above the auto scroll and not knowing where you are. For that reason, you have to be jumping from different Parabeetles every 3 seconds or so. You're lucky enough to be granted an acorn soon in this level, but it's really easy to lose it and you only have 2 opportunities to get one. This time, along with more Parabeetles, there are giant fire bullet bills coming your direction, and you have limited spaces to take up like 3/4 of the screen. At some time, you have like 3 giant bullet bills coming your way, so you have to be super lucky with your jumps and positioning. If you want to get the final star in this stage, you have to be super precise. There's a red pipe you have to enter, but it's only accessible if standing on a floor or object next to it. You have to jump and avoid a giant bullet bill so the Parabeetle is the exact height of the pipe when it flies to the right. This is trickier than it looks, and boy is that a huge relief when you enter the red pipe. Don't worry, there are no more obstacles after that, well, besides the big Parabeetle. Overall, this level is definitely worth being called rage-inducing. Coming in at number 4, we have Spinning Spirit House. This level is less difficult because of obstacles and more difficult because of navigation. This level is essentially located around lots of different doors, and the only way to progress to different doors is by completing the section a door has to offer. The first and second star aren't that hard to get once you're there, but again, it's trying to find the room in which to enter that's difficult. Majority of times, I just quit and stop playing for the day because I don't even know where I'm going and I'm losing my mind. The third star though is completely stupid. After going in a few random doors, you'll gain access to a spring which can be used to jump to the roof of a floor. As if anyone was going to know that the first time they played. That again does end up leading to the 3rd floor as well as the secret exit, so I can sort of understand the difficulty. Luckily, this is the last Boo house on the list, and I hope to never see one as tricky and mind-boggling as this one. To avoid the fire bars, and it's incredibly difficult as throughout the course you'll be standing on donut blocks and jumping above the abyss at the same time. The fire bars rotate both ways at some times, meaning your jumps have to be pixel perfections, and not to mention that you climb as slow as a snail. If you're not speedrunning the climb up to the top at the end, you aren't gonna survive. Not only are there lots of fire bars, but they also move incredibly quickly, so you have to bunny hop up. At some points they combine the speed of the fire bars with the donut blocks, which is the absolute worst combination as you're constantly jumping. You'll also encounter Buzzy Beetles and Koopa Troopers for some extra pressure. If you have a fire flower, if you're not good with timing your jumps, this level is a nightmare. At number 2, we have Swim for Your Life. The rage and stress this level caused me is honestly with the fire flower, he infinitely respawns. The scary thing is that the Porcupuffer is faster than you, and you kill enemies, so the fire flower is absolutely vital. But shooting the enemies ahead of you leaves you vulnerable from the Porcupuffer behind you. You have to be quick, and the Porcupuffer takes like 5 hits to kill. The end is an absolute nightmare. You'll be bombarded with like 20 purple fish that chase you, and you can't lose your fire flower as there are too many urchins blocking the final star. Throughout the level, you'll be moving up and down as well, making you even slower. Move on to the hardest level in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. At number 1, we of course have Pendulum Castle. This is one of the final levels you will complete in the game, and man, what a challenge this gave me. You cannot stand still in this level, otherwise you get hit by a moving pendulum. Sometimes you have to wait for the pendulum to come to your direction before you can run across, and since you're standing on donut blocks you have to perfectly time the time you spend on them or you will fall to your death. The bridge of donut blocks is one of the harder parts of the level, as you have to run at full speed to prevent falling through the gap, and you have to time your run or else you get hit by the pendulum. You have to do that 3 times and you barely have any space. The final section is really difficult as you have to hit the P-switch and rush and duck your way through the block so you don't get hit, and you have to be even quicker if you want the star. Before you click off the video, remember to comment down below what we should do for our 2-year anniversary. We'll read through as many ideas as we can, and remember the best ideas gets a heart and a shout out. On the topic of shout outs, we would like to shout out both Crazy Boys Gaming and CB Stops. We will leave their channels in the description of the video. With everything out of the way, have a great day, stay safe, and we will see you in the next video.